Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video all about brows. Now, if you guys don't already know, I have a brow collection that is out at the moment in Boots with Fleur, and I've had a lot of questions about how I use it because I've done I've spoken about the products in a couple of videos and like how I design them and stuff, but I haven't actually shown you guys my brow routine and how I use them together. So in this video, I wanted to show you my brow routine from start to finish and then talk about how I use all the products together and which products I use and which tools I use and things like that. I also wanted to say at the beginning, in terms of like treatments and stuff, because I do get my brows professionally tinted and threaded, and I would 100% recommend that to everyone because it just makes like getting the right shape so much easier. Even if you don't do it as regularly as I do, I would recommend getting your brows at least like threaded and shaped by a professional because it will make your life a lot easier in terms of like trying to get the right shape for you if you haven't done that before. The other thing I want to say is about tinting, because I feel like a lot of people that aren't into their brows are very scared of eyebrow tinting, but it honestly makes such a difference, especially if you have kind of patchy brows, or I think a lot of people are scared if they have fair hair like me to tint their brows, so like, whoa, it's going to look way too intense. But you don't necessarily have to dye them super dark. It really frames your face and it just makes such a difference. I remember the first time my mum did it, and it made such a difference to her face. She'd never done anything to her brows before, and obviously she's starting to go a little bit grey in her brows, and getting them tinted, just honestly, it takes like 5 years off instantly. It's just amazing. So I'm a massive advocate of getting your brows tinted and professionally threaded, or whether you want to go for HD brows and get them waxed and kind of plucked and everything as well. So I do that every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much time I've got and like which day I can book it in. But ideally, probably like 5 weeks is the optimum time for me in terms of like my brow regrowth and also getting it tinted, because I think tinting is really important in terms of like that makes the big difference, whereas getting threaded it's almost like a top up, and I do actually like pluck in between because I don't want my brows to look crazy and hairy. So I will show you guys now my day-to-day brow routine, what I do and the result. So I start off basically by brushing my brows upwards just to get them in the right shape. Usually if I've been asleep or in the shower or whatever, they'll be like all over the shop. And this is really important before you remove any hairs, because you want to make sure that you're removing the right ones. So I just use a little spoolie, and I actually have a double-ended brush which has an angled brush on one end, which is good for filling in your brows, and then on the other end it has a spoolie. And pretty much every makeup brand makes these. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them in my experience. This one I have is my favorite one. It's from NYX, but Isla also make a really good one. You can buy expensive ones if you want, but like I said, probably not worth investing in terms of brushes. Like, I think there are a lot of other brushes I would say that are better to invest your money in. Anyway, so I use a little spoolie on the end to brush my brows up and out, and then I go in with my tweezers, and I actually have two types of tweezers. I have quite a lot of pairs of tweezers, but I have the pointy kind of needle tweezers, which are the pink ones, and then I also have the regular slanted tweezers, and the little pointy ones are better if you're removing specific hairs and you really want to kind of be very precise. They're also better for removing like longer hairs because they're easier to grab hold of with those, whereas the slanted ones are better if you're removing like a couple of hairs at a time, if they've like kind of grown back in a patch, or if they're a bit shorter, they're really good for that. So I basically pluck out any strays. I don't change the shape or the arch at all. I don't go anywhere near it. I just pluck any kind of loose hairs that are kind of underneath, and I probably do this once a week. I don't do it every single day, but I just kind of keep on top of it to keep my brows looking neat. And then another thing that you can also do at this point is to trim your brows. I don't actually do this because they do it for me when I get my brows threaded, but if you want to trim your brows at home, all you need to do is brush your brows straight up, keep the spoolie in your brow hair and almost position it like along the line, the top line of your brow, and then you can go in with some nail scissors and just trim like a tiny bit, and don't go all in, just like trim a tiny bit at a time for the best results in terms of trimming your brows at home. But yeah, that's definitely made a big difference as well. Like, I never used to trim my brows, and I noticed like when I started doing that, it made a huge difference to how neat they were and everything. When it comes to popping the brow makeup in, the first thing I do is take my brow palette, and I use the one in medium. So in this palette you have 3 different shades. You've got a darker brow shade, a lighter brow shade, and then a highlighting shade. So the first thing I like to do is take my angle brush that I spoke about already and pop it into the darkest brow shade, and then I start off by filling in any like bigger sparse areas in my brows, because I have one brow, so the right brow is like the nightmare naughty brow, because it has a big kind of like sparse patch in the middle, which is from a scar when I was a kid, and then the arch on like the upper arch is really, really skinny. Like the tail kind of is just not as good as the other one, and the other brow needs barely any work. So I go in and fill in any sparseness and kind of build that colour up, trying not to make it look too blocky. And the way you do this is to use your brush to make kind of like hair-like strokes so that you don't get like a full block colour, but you get kind of a little bit more texture. And this is a little bit different when you use powder, because with pencils it's very easy to get that kind of hair, like especially if you have the really skinny ones, but with powder you need to be a little bit more careful in terms of trying to make the brows look natural. So I'll do that, and then I also fill in the kind of tail, like the upper arch tail sections of my brows, which is a problem area for me. It's not for everybody, but I like to fill them out a little bit and just kind of bump up the shape a tiny bit. And then next up I go in with the lighter brow shade and I create a more defined line on the bottom of my brows. Again, my brows are a little bit different. Everyone's brows will be different to everybody else's. So my issue is, especially on my right brow, that this line here at the bottom is not very defined. So I'll go along and almost draw in a straight line to have that really defined bottom line, and then I'll turn my brush to face upwards and go and fill in that inner corner here. And I like to use the lighter colour for the inner corner so that you don't get that like angry looking brow, which is never a good look. If you have like really dark, the kind of inner corners of your brows, it makes you look a little bit frowny. So yeah, I use the lighter colour for that. And then I like to use the highlight shade to highlight under my eyes, but also in the inner corners of my eyes. This highlight shade, if you guys get this palette, or if anyone already has it, I'd love to know what you think, because I am absolutely addicted to it. It's so natural. It's quite pigmented, but it just blends really, really nicely into the skin, and it almost adds, like, it doesn't have a shimmer to it at all, but it almost has like a slight glow. Like, it sounds very weird because it is a matte eyeshadow, but it really just makes like underneath your eyebrow just really glow. And I actually love using this palette as an eyeshadow palette as well. It works really well for that if you want just a simple matte contoured look. So basically what I do with this is take a flat eyeshadow brush and just apply a highlight all the way underneath my brow, and this will help to highlight your brow bone but also really define that bottom line of your brow as well. And then you can take it and put it on the inner corner if you want a little bit of a highlight there too. So yeah, that's the palette. And then finally I set my brows with my brow taming duo, and depending on where I'm going and the brow look that I want, I will use either end. So the clear end I tend to use on a kind of daily basis if I'm not wanting anything kind of too dramatic for my brows, or whether I feel like I don't really need an extra kind of colour boost for my brows that day. I also find if I've had them recently tinted, I tend to use the clear, and if I am due for a tint and my brows have started to go a little bit fairer again, I'll use the tinted gel just to kind of boost that colour in the hairs of my brows. So I'll show you on different brows, different ones, so you can see the difference between the clear. My clear gel has a bigger brush than the tinted gel, because obviously you don't need to be quite as precise because it is clear. You're not going to kind of create any crazy looking brows with it really. But I would definitely recommend just checking how much product you have on your brush before, and this is for any product that you want to use, any brow gel, is just to remove a little bit. And you can just do it by like just checking there's no excess, because you don't want too much brow gel. That is never a good look. So the brow gel just really helps to keep my brows in place as well, like all day. If you are kind of out and about, I tend to find like your brows kind of get knocked a bit and like out of shape and stuff like that. So that's what the clear brow gel is really good for, keeping them nice and neat and tidy, and it lasts like all day. It's amazing. And then the tinted one, like I said, if you're in between tints and you want to add like a little bit of a boost to your brows and like kind of revamp the colour a little bit, again, remove any excess. And then this brush is absolutely tiny, so it allows you to be really precise with the application and not apply too much, which is absolutely essential. And you also want to be careful not to get it like above your brow or whatever, hence the very small brush. So you guys can see the difference between the two brow gels. I'm actually going to go back and put a little bit of tinted brow gel in my other eyebrow as well, because I don't want like different looking brows. But yeah, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and some of you found it useful. If you're wondering what I do for my brow routine, both of the brow products in my range for Eyelaw are available now in the UK at Boots, and they're online at Boots as well, but in stores I think they are buy one get one half price at the moment, both online and in store. So if you guys want to check them out, there's a bit of a deal going on. I'll link everything below, everything else that I've spoken about as well, like the brush and the tweezers and things like that. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.